I remember the sheets were white. Not cream. Not beige. White. Pristine and untouched, just like I used to be. His hands were not my husband's. They were rougher. Hungrier. They slid down the curve of my waist while his breath heated the side of my neck. The sound I made, it was not from pain. That was the worst part. It was from pleasure. I had not made that sound in years. Not even with Eli. And while I lost myself in another man's arms, my husband was kneeling at our bedside back home, whispering a prayer for me. He had no idea his angel was tangled in another man's sin. Before we begin, I want to say thank you. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed to the channel, it means the world to me. And to all my new and returning viewers who have not yet hit that subscribe button, I am just waiting for you to do it. Your support is the fuel that keeps this channel burning bright. Please do not forget to like, comment, and tell me what you think after this story. I promise you, it gets intense. Now, let me take you back. My name is Claire Whitmore. I live in the suburbs of Georgia. I have a small garden, 2 boys, and a golden retriever named Trixie. On paper, I am every inch the all-American wife. And my husband? His name is Eli. He is 39, loves old gospel music, and cries at baptisms. A gentle soul. He works in IT and reads the Bible every night before bed, without fail. He married me when I was still wild, still unsure, still half-broken. And he never once tried to change me. He only tried to love me whole. But sometimes, love feels like silence. Like still water. And I began to crave a storm. It started with Derek. A divorced contractor I met at the gym. He was cocky, charming, and had the kind of arms that made your morals waver. I never planned for anything to happen. I only wanted to flirt a little. To feel noticed. To feel wanted. But it escalated. It went from small talk at the juice bar, to sharing stories in the sauna. To hands grazing mine when no one was watching. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself it was innocent. Until the night it was not. Eli had Bible study. I had a lie. I told him I was going out with my sister. He kissed my forehead and said, "I will be praying for you." That sentence should have stopped me. It should have made my legs turn around and march straight home. But all it did was press guilt deeper into my bones, and somehow, that made the desire burn hotter. When I arrived at the hotel, Derek was already waiting. He opened the door shirtless. And I stepped inside. I will not pretend it was quick. It was not. We kissed like teenagers with no parents home. He lifted me like I weighed nothing and threw me onto the bed. My ring stayed on the entire time. His mouth traced the skin just above it before he pushed inside me. I moaned. I cried. Not from sadness. From release. The kind of release that made me hate myself while still begging for more. It was not love. It was lust. And it was over in less than an hour, but it burned me like fire. Afterwards, I could not look in the mirror. I pulled my dress back on, my hair was a mess, and my makeup was smeared. I told Derek it was a mistake. He smirked and said, "Sure. Until next time." I left the hotel room feeling like a used towel. When I opened the front door of our house, the lights were dim. The smell of cinnamon tea was in the air. Eli was on the couch, Bible in hand, eyes closed in prayer. He opened them when he heard me. He smiled. "Hey baby. You good?" I nodded and lied again. "Yeah. It was just a lot." He hugged me. Kissed my temple. Said, I was praying the whole time. That night I could not sleep. I lay beside the man who had given me everything, staring at the ceiling, my body still sore from betrayal. Every time he reached for me under the blanket, I flinched like a criminal waiting for handcuffs. He did not know what I had done. But God did. And worse. I did. I want to tell you that I ended it there. That I ran back to faith and fidelity. But I would be lying. Sin is addictive. It numbs the parts of you that ache. And I was aching in places Eli's love could not reach anymore. But guilt? Oh, guilt was loud. It screamed in my soul, even when my mouth stayed shut. I wish I could tell you that guilt stopped me. But the truth is, guilt only made me sneakier. I became better at covering my tracks. I double-checked text threads. I deleted location history. I made sure my perfume did not match the moments I spent with Derek. I kept my lies clean and wrapped in soft explanations. But I could not hide from my own reflection. Every night, I would crawl into bed next to Eli, carrying a body that had been worshipped by another man just hours before. Eli would smile, kiss my cheek, and hold my hand. Sometimes, he would whisper prayers aloud as I laid there silently, a fraud hiding inside my own skin. He did not notice at first. Or maybe he did, but he loved me enough to wait. To hope I would come back to him without force or shame. That was who Eli was. Patient. Pure-hearted. A man of prayer, not pressure. And me? I was the storm cloud over his sunshine. It was a Sunday afternoon when things started to unravel. I had just returned from another so-called girls' brunch. Really, it was another sweaty, sinful escape with Derek in the back seat of his truck parked in a deserted trail near a lake. It was primal. Animalistic. And completely devoid of love. That was the thing about Derek, he never cared about my heart. Only my body. And still, I kept going back. When I walked through the front door that day, Eli was in the kitchen stirring chili on the stove. The twins were at my mother's house, and the house was quiet. He turned and looked at me, and this time, he held the stare longer than usual. Something in his eyes had shifted. "Claire," he said. "Can we talk?" My stomach clenched. I nodded, pretending to be calm, even as sweat beaded on the back of my neck. We sat on the couch. Eli took my hand. His touch was warm. Steady. "I do not want to accuse you of anything," he began, "but you are distant. Different. Like your soul is somewhere else, and I do not know how to reach it." Tears stung my eyes, but I blinked them away. He continued, "If you are hurting, I want to know. If you are drifting, I want to understand. But I need honesty, Claire. Not perfection. Just truth." And just like that, I broke. But not the way he expected. I did not confess. Instead, I cried. I leaned into his chest and sobbed like a child, without giving him a single answer. And Eli, being Eli, just held me. He did not demand clarity. He did not push. He just held me and whispered, "Whatever it is, I still love you." And that shattered me. Because in that moment, I realized something. Derek had my body. But Eli still had my soul. Over the next few weeks, I tried to distance myself from Derek. I stopped responding to his messages. I blocked his number. I stayed home and threw myself into family life like a woman desperate to scrub herself clean. I started helping with the twins' homework. I cooked dinner every night. I even started attending church with Eli again, hoping that somehow God would reverse the damage if I just sat still long enough. But sin does not let you go quietly. Derek showed up at my job. I was on my lunch break, sitting in my car, scrolling through Pinterest when he knocked on the window. I jumped. He smirked. "Thought you could ghost me?" I stepped out, my heart racing. I begged him to leave. Told him it was over. That I was done. He leaned in, his mouth brushing my ear, and said, "You are not done until I say you are." My blood turned cold. I did not know what he meant then, but I would soon find out. That night, I stared at my husband while he read scripture aloud at the dinner table. He was glowing, his spirit calm, his voice gentle, his faith unshaken. And all I could think about was how unworthy I was to sit across from him. I had cheated, lied, desecrated the vows we made before God and family. And he still treated me like gold. I wanted to believe that was enough to keep our marriage standing. But I knew in my gut, the storm was not done. The next morning, I received a message from an unknown number. It was a photo. Me. Bent over the hood of Derek's truck. My face. My ring. My shame. I dropped my phone. My legs buckled. The air disappeared from my lungs. There was no caption. No threat. Just proof. I had no idea who else had seen it. If Derek had already sent it to Eli. If this was a blackmail scheme. If I had just lost my family in a single flash. That night, I could barely eat. I picked at my food while Eli cracked jokes with the twins. My eyes kept darting to my phone, waiting for the explosion. Waiting for the man I betrayed to finally find out. But it never came. Not that night. Eli simply kissed me on the forehead, tucked the boys in, and started folding laundry. I watched him from the doorway. The man who prayed for me. Who loved me. Who never once suspected the war I brought into our home. And that was when I knew. The truth had to come out. No matter the cost. What I did not know, was that someone else was about to beat me to it. Eli did not hear it from me. He heard it from someone who wanted to destroy me. The next morning, he walked into our bedroom holding his phone. His hands were shaking, and his eyes, once so full of light, were now clouded with something I had never seen in him before. Hurt. Real, raw, soul-cutting hurt. He said nothing. Just handed me the phone. And there it was. The picture. The one I had prayed no one else had seen. Me. Half naked. Derek behind me. A timestamp. A location. A memory I wished I could erase. I felt my knees go weak. I opened my mouth to speak, but Eli raised his hand. His voice was quiet, like a whisper wrapped in thunder. How long? That was all he asked. No screaming. No accusations. Just that one question. My lips quivered. My hands trembled. I whispered, 6 months. He looked away. And in that silence, I heard something I had never heard from him before. The sound of breaking. Not glass. Not bone. But spirit. His soul was tearing in front of me, and I had done it. I had taken the man who loved me through hell and left him there with no explanation, no warning, no defense. And he had been praying for me through it all. I wanted him to hit me. To scream. To curse me out. But instead, Eli did what only the deeply broken do when they are full of grace. He wept. He sat down on the edge of the bed, buried his face in his hands, and sobbed. Not for himself. But for me. I begged God to protect you, he said through his tears. I prayed every night for your heart. I had no idea I was asking him to cover you while you were giving your body to someone else. I could barely breathe. I fell to my knees in front of him, clutching his leg like a dying woman begging for breath. I am so sorry, Eli. He looked down at me. And what he said next haunts me to this day. I do not know if I can stay, but I will not hate you. He packed a small bag. He kissed our children goodbye without letting them see his tears. And he walked out the front door. I collapsed on the floor. Sobbing. Convulsing. Suffocating under the weight of my own betrayal. And that was when I realized that losing Eli was not just losing a husband. It was losing my covering. My peace. My mirror. Because Eli was the best part of me. And I had shattered him. The days that followed were hollow. Derek tried to reach out. He texted. He called. He even showed up at my job again. This time, I was ready. I walked straight to HR and reported him for harassment. I showed them the messages, the photos, the evidence. He was fired. Blocked. Deleted. Forever. But even with him gone, I was still drowning in guilt. One night, 2 weeks after Eli left, I found myself at the back pew of the church where we used to worship together. I sat alone. Tears streamed down my face. I did not sing. I did not pray. I just sat there and asked God a question I had never asked before. Why did you let him love me like that? And in that moment, I felt something. Not forgiveness. Not peace. But grace. Heavy. Real. Unrelenting. It did not erase what I had done. But it reminded me that I was not beyond redemption. A month passed before Eli agreed to meet me. We sat in a small coffee shop on the edge of town. He looked thinner. Older. Like the pain had added a few years to his face. But his eyes. They were still kind. I apologized again, this time with no expectations. I told him everything. Every moment. Every secret. I told him I was going to therapy. That I had joined a women's recovery group. That I was working every day to be someone who could be trusted again, even if it meant doing it alone. And then I said the words I had never truly said before. I will not beg you to come home. But I will fight for you. Even if I lose. He nodded. And then he reached across the table and said, I never stopped praying for you. It took 6 more months before we began marriage counseling. Another 4 before he moved back home. We did not sleep in the same bed for a while. We took it slow. We learned how to speak again. How to trust again. How to kiss again without remembering the wounds. It was not perfect. It was painful. But it was grace. Grace fought for us when everything else gave up. Grace reminded us that people are not the sum total of their worst sins. And Eli? Eli taught me what love really is. It is not passion. It is not perfection. It is presence. Even when it hurts. Even when it costs everything. Even when the prayers feel like they are hitting the ceiling. I betrayed the best man I have ever known. But God used that wreckage to rebuild something stronger. Today, we are still healing. But we are together. By the mercy of God, and the prayers of a faithful man.